Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Heartwell dev stream, the live stream series where I continue to develop this adorable Souls-like action RPG with platforming mechanics and branching narrative. If you find these dev streams interesting or helpful, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and boot that bell button to stay notified. Now, of course, in the previous dev stream, we were busy working on some programming stuff to try and get the Cobras to work on the Cobra rework, and we've made some good progress last stream. We've managed to get to the point where the Cobras can properly not only pathfind, but also attack properly. So you'll notice the Cobra's approaching us, then suddenly it's attacking. So we have that. Obviously the animations for facing the correct direction are not quite programmed in yet, but that's okay, because functionally it's mostly there. There is, however, one very significant area that we need to focus on tonight, and that's going to be damage calculations. So at the moment, I don't think we can have it so that these Cobras will take damage independently and respond independently, because that code referenced to both the Cobra and their collision boxes, the same lines of code, and we've noticed in previous dev streams that causes some issues. So that's going to be our main focus for tonight, is hopefully resolving that so that these can take damage independently. And with that, I'd say let's hop on into our frame, pull up our dev stream notes, and get right into it. Hello, Copper Nicholson. Nice for dropping by, dude. How's it going? Ah, I see. Fair enough. Well, glad to hear you're back from your trip. That's good. Copper Nicholson, it's a dev stream, silly, so no, we'll battle Melania and Elden Ring this coming Tuesday, Copper Nicholson. But tonight, just a nice chill stream working on continuing to develop Heartwell. So, what I have here on my notes for last stream is to start revising the Cobra damage group, which is going to be tricky, or I should say, not tricky, I should say it'll be interesting. Because the way I had this set up in the damage category. So basically, the damage category is this. You might say, well, in Antomicx, there's only a couple lines of code, right? There's only like maybe 5. And while that is technically true, you'll notice that these are very beefy lines of code. Like, there is a lot of information that needs to be drawn from here in order to have this information all flow together. So the first thing we're going to do is actually kind of analyze what issues I'm seeing in these lines of code, and then we're going to try and see if we can think through logically how to break it up. Then we'll try to tackle the problem from there. So let's start here. This first line of code is for a situation where the player has a melee attack, so that's a player melee swipe hitting the Cobra. Ah, okay, fair enough, Copper Nicholson. So so at first it looks okay. So we have this, we have that, we activate the Cobra melee damage taking group. But then the first issue arises, and that's right here. So trying to reference writing a critical value M of this to a value here. A value referencing this, and I think for this at least we might be able to get away with referencing the Cobra's index value, as if I'm remembering correctly, it's the enemy data retrieval index of the Cobra 3 that we've been using. Let me just double check that. Yep, that's what it was. Okay, so as per usual, what we'll do, just to be safe, we're working on these lines of code, is I'm actually going to duplicate this and inactivate it. So what that'll do is make sure that whatever we mess with here, we'll still have this as a backup in case we really mess things up or we need to reference the old code. for edits. I think I have had Korean barbecue right once or twice. It is really good. I agree, Copper Nicholson. I agree. What you have there? But yeah. So for this, I'm thinking we can just do a simple, at least for these initial values, a simple switching the enemy data retrieval value from that object to the Cobra. Oh, right, wait. It's value. Man. That's kind of a buffet situation, so you paid. Okay. That sounds delicious, Copper Nicholson. I guess what was your favorite thing that you had while you were there? Now, while we will be able to, of course, use this enemy data retrieval value to fit, I'm assuming, some of this stuff, it's going to kind of fall apart with situations here where we're clearly referencing a value from the enemy collision walking to. Marinated beef and marinated pork. Okay, that sounds delicious, Copper Nicholson. Cool. So I think what we'll do first is, just for my own sanity, we'll convert all the values that happen to be Cobras to reference only the Cobra stuff. Then we'll figure out how we're going to handle the other things. That's really not wise, Copper Nicholson. You really shouldn't be skipping breakfast. Alright. So that's that first section taken care of. Of course, now the tricky part comes into play. So first, the fact that we have the enemy collision walking to reference here. My first initial thought would be to split these up into a separate line. However, one thing that's somewhat not so much concerns me, but something that's I'm definitely curious about is this right here. So we're having a value being written to this, which I think was just a simplification for a later equation in the damage calcs. Let me just confirm that. Surprisingly not seeing it. Still not recommended copper Nicholson. It's more to have energy early in the morning. Alright, so we're saying stopped up. Is that a... I'm trying to remember if that's a flag of some kind. Okay. Oh, wait, I think I remember what this is for. So this stopped up, I think, is actually for the display of the health bar. So let's go digging for that. So what we actually need to look for is the code that presents the health being created. Okay, so player hitbox and default enemy mechanics. Let's try around there. It's still not recommended to skip the breakfast copper Nicholson. It can contribute to exhaustion later in the day. Okay, so... Oh, it could be here too. That's... Damage taken. And the alternative is to, since we know it's the collision bots that references it, we can jake through this. Okay, interesting, interesting. Okay, so what's interesting about the chat is I can't seem to find an instance where that flag, or not that flag, that alterable value is referenced anywhere else. So the only other thing I can think of to do is to look at the old Cobra code just to see if I perhaps named that something else, if that would give us any clue as to what it is. It doesn't seem to. Alright, as far as I can tell, that might honestly be an unused value, or an unused line of code. And that is the case, then we can either delete that or at least not worry about it yet unless it becomes a problem. So what we'll do, I'll make a note about this that it seems a bit bizarre that this exists, but we'll separate it for now. So print screen that. There seems to be a line of code that begins with stop write to max C equal. For the enemy clip. At this point in time, this alterable value does not seem to be used in any other line of code, so it could be that is unused and unnecessary. However, the line shall be maintained in the separated code in case it creates bugs later. Okay, we've made note. So it seems to me, besides this suspect line of code, actually, I wonder. Okay, we do still have alterable strings to play with, so we might honestly be able to get away with changing this into an alterable string, that kind of conversion. I think that's what we'll do. Okay. So we are going to need this value here, this max round thing. But what I'm thinking, I copy that. We'll just store that here. We'll replace this. Probably name this. I'm trying to think what this is. Seems to be just checking for HP maybe, so we'll call it HP check. Or unused HP check. Or unknown. Okay. That way that value is maintained. Let's order of business. Trying to get all this stuff. Yeah. Okay, so for all the status-y stuff, I think we'll be able to move that to a separate line. What we ought to do, though, we might have to use an intermediate object again. I think. I'm trying to remember what we've been using as our intermediate object at this point. I think it was that rectangle, but I do want to double check that. Let's see here. Because I know we did have intermediate objects further down here somewhere. Ah, yep, there it is, there it is, okay. Okay, so I do use flags. Oh, this is a bit trickier. Okay. Alright, so we do set alterable values. And flags. But we do not use the alterable strings, so that will definitely help. Okay. We are going to use the alterable strings then. Oh, did I use the alterables? I better make sure I didn't accidentally use the enemy data retrieval string somewhere. Multiple value. Multiple value. Value. Flags, flag, flag. Okay. Okay. We do not use it for the ultimate string. That's a relief. We'll rename you. Enemy data retrieval index. No. We'll name this something else. Forgive me, chat. I'm just trying to remember what I need this for, so... Value we had to transfer over. Not that. Oh, right. We need to transfer over the indentation that is damaged recently on. So we need that indicator to be on. It's damaged. Well, it's not just is damaged recently. That's all. I think it's melee hit recently has to be on. Alright, so I take it back. So it is damaged recently has to be on. And... yeah, okay. Okay, I think what I'll do is just write out my thought process here. Transfer. Collision box to allow the damage calculation code be separated by the each individual object. Use the intermediate objects. This information, since it can up to 12 All right. This could be a potential issue in the future if there are more than 12 instances of Cobras in a single frame. More so for testing purposes right now. All right. Oh, I just we only have 10, so yeah, that could be an issue. Video games outside? Not really, Copper and Nicholson. How come? Actually, the more I think about this, yeah, no, we would definitely exceed 10 in a frame, so we need to find a different intermediate object. Okay. Other objects don't really do too much. Actually, wait. A list object might be useful. Yeah. Let's try adding you to the frame. Whoa. I think alterable. There can be a lot of alterable values in a list object, can't there be? Let's at least test that theory. For those who are wondering what I'm doing, I'm just double checking how many alterable values we can have for this. If we can go past 32, then of course, it seems we cannot. Okay. Yeah, it's an alterable string thing because it is a list. Nope, okay. Alright, so no list object then. Alright. I think that, yeah, that definitely needs its alterable values. We don't really use alterable flags though, so we could just use the frame block for this purpose. Or actually literally any I think pretty much any floor tile can be used because I don't think it ever really uses the always active cloud. But then again, decisions, chat. I don't really ever see that happening, Copper Nicholson. The lighter games doesn't exactly lend itself to the difficulty of Dark Souls. I could use the wall tiles though. Or just create another intermediate storage object. Honestly, yeah, at this point, might as well just create another intermediate storage object. So, active object, put it off frame. It's transparent, invisible. No fine detection, create start. It will simply call you intermediate storage object 1. Well, no, Copper Nicholson. If you're outdoors, you're there to enjoy the outdoors. If I want to play a game, I want to just be in a nice, comfortable room and play the game. Simple as that. Anywho, we have our intermediate storage object now. Let's just grab some equations. That new object. There it is. So that'll be how we set that information that damage was taken recently. I think. Okay, so we do have to differentiate between melee and ranged. Beyond that, though, I think we're otherwise okay. Alright, so these lines can be converted to the cobras. Okay, there we go. Actually, in a game like Dark Souls, you're quite frequently in caves or underground, so it's not always in nature. Or it might be like in castles and stuff. Whatever makes you happy, dude. Just saying it's not my preference. Okay. Now this line will be problematic, because we need that surge status value. They're not necessarily natural though, Copper Nicholson, especially not castles. Okay, so I think with this setting of this information, we might have to do that elsewhere. Just because of the search status. It looks like we'll have to set this into rather if we can get away with this in 2 lines. Natural just means not made by a sentient being, Copper Nicholson. So if humans made it, it's not natural. If a sentient alien race made it, it's not natural. But if it was just made by a non-sentient creature, then it's natural. Yes, bird nests are natural. Yep, beaver dams are natural. Now, if they were sentient birds or sentient beavers, different story. But that's not what... That's all it really is to it, Copper Nicholson. It's not a complicated definition. You can doodle that yourself, Copper Nicholson. There's plenty that make humans different from, we'll say, other non-sentient life forms at the moment. Where was I? All right, this. I think we're going to end up breaking this into 3 lines, which is a little unfortunate, but if it works, it works. Then no, they really aren't, Copper Nicholson. No, they really aren't, Copper Nicholson. Again, you can look this up. The scale and efficiency with which humans degrade their surroundings is something you can investigate for yourself, Copper Nicholson. It's not natural. As far as we're aware, no other living creature on this planet, at least, causes as much industrial buildup, pollution, or dislocation of other habitats as we do. Alright, I'm not going to entertain this much further, Copper Nicholson. I'm just going to continue on doing it. If you want to talk about something else, you can talk about something else, but I'd strongly encourage you to look this up. There are significant differences. Okay, so maybe we can rethink this. So what does this accomplish? Checking the search stats to see if there's a critical hit. Then here. Critical hit M is off. Copper Nicholson, if I was at an actual cave or castle, I'd much rather be exploring the actual cave or castle than playing Dark Souls. To each their own, Copper Nicholson, to each their own. Well, Copper Nicholson. Yes, Copper Nicholson, but my point is I would find those environments more distracting than immersing, because those environments are interesting to explore on their own. Whereas if I'm gaming, I want to just be in a nice quiet room. That's about it. Again, that's my personal preference. If you have a different preference, that's your call, dude. the enemy damage calculations that use this information. I'm trying to... Those are wondering what I'm doing. I'm trying to search through and determine where I'm using that melee check M and whether or not I can... That critical hit check and whether or not I can just get rid of it. Okay, so I'm not seeing it in the enemy damage calcs. Not seeing it there. That leads me to believe... in this particular instance, the critical hit check is not used. The only other spot I can think this might come up is with these. That also doesn't seem to be the case. Okay. Alright, conclusion, at least for now. Is that the no, Copper Nicholson, I won't. The next time I go on a nature hike, I'll be going on a nature hike to have a nature hike. Part of going into nature is to unplug from that stuff, Copper Nicholson. Appreciate the great outdoors. Alright, you do you, Copper Nicholson. I'm not going to indulge in this much further, dude. I've already stated my opinion. If it makes you happy, good for you, dude. I'm just saying, for me, I'd much prefer to, if I'm in nature, to just enjoy nature. Okay, so back up to the task at hand. At this point in time, there seems to be, well, This doesn't seem to be used anywhere except critical hit M. All the calculations turn elsewhere, so I'm going to delete this line, but I'll try to at least make reference to it. Actually, wait, no, there has to be a critical hit M count somewhere, though. That's what's so confusing about this. I wonder. Let me just check that something else. Critical hit N to that. Okay. Actually, no, we do need... yeah, I think we do need critical hit M. So... this could be one area where, again, we try to rethink how we're structuring our storage here, since we do have one other alterable string we can make use of. Alright. Call this search status alternate storage. Oh, hey, Dracula, thanks for dropping by, dude. How's it going? Right now we're in the process of rethinking some of our code. Specifically, the Cobra's damage calculations code. Current line of interest is here. Oh, your lights are so I'm guessing you were having a good run, Record? Okay. Oh, okay. Good to hear working out, Record. How are other things going? Just for my own understanding. At least for right now, what I'm thinking is the annoyance of having to alter this. Oh, that's awesome, Driftcore. Do you know what? I do need to look something up. But what I'm thinking, chat, is this line right here. And indeed, well, actually, these lines about stats build-up might be able to stay to some extent. But especially this value about critical headshots, I think we're going to have to rethink that a little bit as part of a Staff's rework. So this might be a good spot to get at least a head start on that. So what I think I'll do, I'll take a little break, I'll look at my notes, and then we'll come on back and continue development. So, be right back, chat. Alrighty, chat. Welcome back, everybody. So, I was digging through my ideas document and noticed I hadn't actually written down my ideas for Stats Effects Rework. And as I'm looking at these equations, it's becoming clear to me that we definitely need to at least describe the Stats Effects Rework, because these equations are directly impacted by those implications. So that's I think it's worth our time to actually write that out in words a bit more so that can better drive how we're reworking these equations. So we will call this, I'll bold this, status effect rework ideas. Anyway, all right. Besides exercise, what's new, Breckwork? So previous status effect process. Okay, sounds good, Breckwork. Sounds good. Glad to hear you're applying for a bunch of stuff. Glad to hear you're doing coding exercises. Since you said you're applying to a bunch of stuff, have you been able to send out a consistently high volume of applications each day? I know keeping that up over the long term is what really, it can really help in terms of getting more responses. Player deals elemental up to an enemy, then if the elemental Redcore, it's still important to have the applications out there. There's the saying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Awesome, glad to hear it, Redcore. As for my own understanding, so when you say automating a system, do you mean just immediately, or is it more so like after, you know, a couple of days, so like, hey, we appreciate it, but here's the generic response? If it's a latter, that means that you were still considered at least. Oh, immediately, okay. Well, that at least tells you there's some feedback there. On the bright side, though, I guess that does give you, you know, some indications of what to look for adding to your resume as well as you go forward. So at least that's good, especially with like the coding exercise to work on. So you're on the right track. So speaking of right track, I'm trying to describe the current status process and how they will have to work in the future. So currently the way it works is it's a lot like the Souls games and Crosscode, where the player deals elemental stats to an enemy, that the elemental stats build up, reaches a certain value, then a status effect occurs for a timed duration. Challenges include need to keep track of both an alterable value. Let's build up. And a flag is a active. All right. I guess in terms of what you're trying to study some more, Record, I guess what's your main priority right now? I think you mentioned something like Java, or was it C++ or something like that? So, previous aspects. Trying to learn JavaScript, but I want to try to do is so more if you're unable to. Okay, well, Record, that's, you know, that's on you, dude. If if you're looking to get into a particular position that requires that, then that's something you gotta learn. Well, again, that's still on you. Like, if you, I mean, it's one thing if you're just like, okay, maybe a job with Java isn't the career path I want to take, but if it's just a question of I'm getting distracted because I don't find a particular language interesting, that's not helpful to you. You have to be able to learn that if you want to be able to, you know, put on your resume and, you know, use that as one part of your qualifications. Am I making sense, or am I just spouting nonsense, Gridcore? New. Okay. Fair enough. So you're not taking medication. Fair enough. So what does that have to do with you learning a particular programming language or not? Is it just that as you're going, you get distracted, and then you let the distraction, whatever that is, just take up your time before you know it? A lot of time has gone past, and you've accomplished very little. Is that it? Okay. Well, let me ask you this, Repcore. When you were working on your thesis, how did you keep focused? Because clearly, if you have enough wherewithal to work on a thesis that passes as muster, okay, well, I find that hard to believe, Gratgore, because, alright, you worked on it whenever you had a burst of inspiration, okay, but you still had to commit to it over a long period of time, didn't you? Alright. So it sounds to me like, at least when it comes to education, you were using a balance of work and play, which is, you know, an alright way to learn. So maybe what you could do, Gratgore, why not alternate between, like, maybe 15 to 30 minutes of learning this programming language, and then like 10 minutes of something fun, and then get back to learning it for another 30 minutes, and then 10 minutes of something fun, and, you know, alternate like that. That way you work in bursts, then you relax a bit, then you work in bursts, relax a little bit, and ultimately, just a thought, Record, because it sounds like if you've done that in the past, maybe that could work here too. So whatever it is, I'd highly recommend writing down what your plan is, so that way you don't get distracted. Be like, okay, I've watched this for 10 minutes, but I need to do 5 minutes more, then 5 minutes more, before you know an hour's gone by. Now, write some kind of structure where you alternate between studying and doing something fun, and stick with it. In fact, how about you do that right now while I'm writing out the status effects rework. So, player deals elemental status build up to an enemy, and the amount of elemental status build up directly affects the enemy with a status ailment that is proportional to the amount of status buildup. Having status buildup decrease slowly over time, needing a timer to set the duration of the status effect. New status effect rework. Player deals elemental status buildup to an enemy, then the amount of elemental status buildup directly affects the enemy with a status moment is proportional to the amount of status buildup. The status buildup does not fade over time. But will be reset if an enemy respawns or if the player rests at an altar record. Alright, now for this next bit, chat, we need to figure out, at minimum, what our new status effects are. So the previous status effects works like this. So, previous status effects. Burn. Moderate amounts of damage per second. Percentage of enemies. Total health. Over a short period of time. We had fault line, which was sets enemy resistances to 0 for the status effects duration. We had surge, guarantees critical hits. Against the enemy for the status effects duration. We had I think it was called Headwind, which was increases ranged damage taken by the enemy by, I think it was 25%. No, I think it might have been 50. And decreases ranged damage dealt by the enemy. 100%. At least I think that's how that works. I can check the damage equations to verify that. Yeah, I think it was 25%. Riptide. By the enemy. And of course we had Frostbite, which deals a small amount of damage per second. Percentage and its total health over a long period of time. Alright, chat. And here's where I'll be open to hearing ideas from you all. Since I do remember in a previous stream I talked about a status effects rework, but now we're actually going to put it into practice. So this here is what we originally had as the status effect ideas for fire, earth, electricity, wind, water, and ice, respectively. In the rework, we're going to make it so that instead of this stuff being like you build up a status effect, then it occurs for a duration, it's more so going to be you build something up that is constantly affecting the enemy and doesn't deplete, so it's more like a slow build-up. So I think that the obvious one for starters will be what the fault line rework would be. So previously the way it works is you build up fault line, then once the effect is built up, damage resistances are 0. Now I think what it should be is status build up. The enemy's damage resistances are reduced by the value of the percentage by the fault line build up value. Using the following equation. Enemy damage resistances is equal to Matt's enemy damage resistance times 1000 minus ceiling thousand minus fault line build up. And what this equation is basically saying, chat, is the more fault line build up an enemy has, the worse its resistances are. So it's like you're chipping away at their armor. The intent is to chip away at an enemy's defenses. Line. Allowing more damage to be dealt because less damage is being resisted. Enemy damage resistances cannot fall below 0. That'll be fault line. Left surge, headwind, riptide, and frostbite. Okay. Alright, yeah, that's no problem, Report. Thank you so much for dropping by, and I hope you have an awesome night, dude. Yep, have a good night, Report. Okay, now it's Surge. And for Surge, what we'll do is the critical hit rate against the enemy is increased by the Surge build-up value. Using the following equation. Yep. Hey, Tate Sparks, thanks for dropping by. How's it going? Just struggling with the Cuphead Dragon. Ah, yeah, I remember watching that boss. That boss looks pretty tricky. But it looks also very beautifully animated. In terms of what I'm up to, Tate Sparks, I'm actually writing out a rework for the Heartwell status effects because we're editing equations as part of the rework, and those equations are affected by status effects, and in order to make these lines of code more efficient, the status effects rework might actually help with that. So I'm taking a step back and rethinking how my status effects work. Because previously the idea was you'd have to deal damage to build up a value or a bar, and then it would temporarily have a status effect take place. Now what I'm thinking is more so, have that build up be the actual status effect, and it's just a constant thing that's occurring passively. So like a slow build up, kind of like how if you were to chip away at a door, the longer you chip away at it, the larger of a gouge there is. Oh yeah, it's a lot of equations, KK Sparks, but I think it'll work out in the long run. So for example, previous idea for a status effect called Fault Line was that once you reach the full build-up, the enemy's damage resistances would be 0 for the status effect duration. Well, now the way it'll work is the value of that build-up of Fault Line is actually a modifier that reduces the enemy's damage resistances overall. So you could, if you're attacking an enemy enough times with a Fault Line building up weapon, get the enemy's resistances set all the way to 0. But you'd of course have to get there. Ah, fair enough, KTS Hearts, fair enough. Well, I wish you all the best with fighting the dragon in Cuphead. So, now what we're writing is the new Surge, sorry, not Surge equation, I guess it's the critical hit rate, so. Enemy critical hit rate is equal to I'm just going to cancel. Okay. Save that. A is equal to floor random 1000 plus that value, because that's the critical hit value, plus surge status of enemy surge status buildup enemy divided 1000 notes. All status buildups shall be a value between 0 and 1000 inclusive. And what this situation is basically saying is right there is the key point, just add the surge status buildup. to the critical hit rate. That's like as you're hitting the enemy, you're more likely to get a critical hit if you're using an electric weapon or a weapon that has the surge stats build up. Where the stats are a little bit trickier is the intent of surge is to increase the likelihood of a player getting a critical hit against the enemy. Oh, and I'm Chopper Nicholson, just working on stats effect rework. Also, KK Sparks here. The tricky thing about Burn and Frostbite is I feel like with the way they used to work, they didn't it's gonna be trickier to rethink how to differentiate the two. Maybe we can make it so that Burn and Frostbite are just flat percentage damages against the enemy. Deals a percentage of the enemy's max health. And what we could do is we could make it so that Burn and Frostbite also have that effect of reducing the damage dealt by certain types. So probably Burn for range, Frostbite for melee. Enemy's max health and it reduces the enemy's range to damage dealt by. Well, for the past 7 days. I mean, at that point, KK Sparks, what you probably want to analyze what phase you're getting defeated at and try to figure out a strategy for that section. I'm sure if you stick with it, though, you'll be able to beat it. So and the ranged damage dealt to player is equal to Matt's enemy damage. Ranged attack damage. Times $10,000 minus actually, no, that would make it too strong now that I'm thinking about it. Because the only percentage of the enemy's Matt's health is just a very good thing anyway. But at the same time, it comes back to trying to differentiate the two. That's 3 times. And you burn, build up. Research stats build up. $10,000 minus 3 times that, okay. I think with that equation, let's see, round up, that parenthesis, that parenthesis. This allows the berm buildup to reduce the amount of damage an enemy deals. By up to 25%. That burn damage is 4 to 5. % for minor bosses, 1% for major bosses. All right. Oh yeah, I remember those types of take parts. Yeah, roundabout's good, roundabout's good. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, obviously the charge shot is going to defeat the enemies the fastest, but it's also it takes the most skill to use, so that's... Depends how confident you are in using that. Yep. Right. Headwinds and Riptide. I think Headwind and Riptide will be pretty obvious. We want to just deal more of the damage of a particular damage type. His melee damage taken by the value of Enemy range. Range taken. Player ranged. Damage dealt. Times. Without. Let's see, 10,000 times. Headwind buildup. Alright, and what that'll do is yield some multiplier that determines what that should be. Here's the this will be melee. Tide. Okay, there we go, chat. I know it took a little while, but I think this will work for a rework idea for the status effects. So now it's, whereas before we needed both, we needed status effects build up value, we needed flags, and we needed some kind of counter on the enemy. Now which are, 3 different sets of multiple values / variables. Now we only need 1 per status effect as opposed to 3. And that is just the status effect's build-up value. It determines everything. So in this case, this is actually an optimization in a sense, because we're having a value that builds up and doesn't decrease over time unless the enemy responds or the player rests somewhere. I think that'll be more fitting for the game's theming anyway, about slow but steady progress. And it'll also be easier to program too, I think. Alright, so now that we've done that, main reason I want to do that was for this equation right here. Any critical hit rate is equal to that floor times that plus the floor of the enemy surge status buildup. Which means yeah, I do have a build-up value. Okay. We'll use the alterable strings for this. Which means, chat, if we're using those alterable strings, then we can actually make this entire line reference the Cobra. We don't need a second line of code anymore. That's an optimization, potentially. Well, actually, I'm not sure because we still have... Alright. Do I have that? And I don't think I have that here. We'll hit M, we'll hit R. Shifting Pathfinding is melee hit recently. Okay, so then what we can do is low HP threshold meant melee and range to be transferred over to the Cobra. Oh, burn buildup. Okay. I see. Search status. Alright. Covers that section. Surge stats, we will simply replace that. I think the equation is very similar to... Yep. Just need a little floor equation there. Val, surge buildup. That. 1,000. Almost in a closed bracket. Not there. that there? Really? Value. Something's not quite right here. Weird. I feel like if I just put a Okay, there we go. That's what the problem was. Okay, we've officially converted that line to all cobras, which is good. Boop. There we go. Alright, chat, I think this is probably a decent place for a second break. I feel like I'm getting somewhere, but I'll be right back. Alright, chat, welcome back everybody. So, like I was saying, I'm making some progress here, just trying to convert some equations here and hope that works. What I'm thinking, chat, is if we're able to get the melee side working, then the ranged should follow suit. Have you gotten to see the new? Oh yeah, I did get to see that new episode, KT Sparks, and yes, I saw the opening. That was amazing. A fantastic reference to Jimmy Neutron. I approved. I approved. I do find it kind of amusing that Nico made it like a running gag for the AI of the Somnium Files episodes, where he's given every character just a parody of like some older TV show opening. It's hilarious. Was there something you wanted to chat about with that particular episode, KT Sparks? It's all forward discussing it. It was very... It was interesting, shall we say. Oh yeah. Ryuki has the Jane Neutron thing, Mizuki has her brand, Date has Bill Nye. Yep, exactly. Exactly. It's all fantastic. For sure. Yeah, I agree, KT. As far as there are massive red flags with Leon. I don't think he's gotten anywhere near the character developments he would need to justify, you know, the direction he wants to go in. And I honestly blame the writers of AI Sonic Files for that, because there are so... It just feels so... What's the right term? Hammed up or like forced. Like it really doesn't feel very natural, is what I'm saying. I think Copper KT Sparks, I would have... The thing is, you can have a story about someone who's trying to, you know, who recently got fired and is trying to get their life back together. Like, you can tell that kind of story in a way that doesn't come across as... So it's not just unrealistic, but also just plainly toxic, as what we see in AI the Sonic Files 2, at least so far. Do we introduce Copper to the chaotic world of Nico V? I mean... It's not a question of if, only when, isn't it, KK Sparks? I feel like if you hang around this stream long enough, you're going to inevitably hear about the interesting Let's Plays that Nico V does. So I would say Copper Nicholson, go to Nico V's channel, and maybe we can give Copper Nicholson some recommendations for series to start on to see whether or not it's his style. Oh, I 100% agree, KK Sparks. Kizuna-san is bearable. Iris-san was a meme, for lack of a better term. Like, I'm with Nico. I'm with Nico on his opinion about Iris-san. It was just no, no, so much no. If anything, I felt like when Nico made that edit making fun of Iris' song was more entertaining than Iris' song. That's just my opinion, though. Right, one thing I'm getting confused on here, though, before I start copying stuff over. The build up right here. I need to double check the damage equations to make sure we're not multiplying this out somewhere else. Okay, so melee damage taken. Okay, so that's some kind of percentage right there. Fair enough, it is fair enough. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I was going to recommend any series for Copper to start on for Nico B, like to see if it's, you know, something's interesting or not, I would say your options are Danganronpa V3, I would say The Great Ace Attorney, 1, of course. What are some other good ones? Yeah, honestly, I feel like those are the ones I'd recommend the most starting on, because they're both great series and they give you a really good feel for Nico's style. I'm not as much of a fan of the Kingdom Hearts Let's Plays, but that's just my own personal preference. It's just whenever I think Nico B, the things that always come to mind are Danganronpa and The Great Ace Attorney. The latter of which is probably because Nico's played through so many Ace Attorney games that he actually had like a 250th episode of Ace Attorneys. So when you start with Danganronpa 1. Well, I mean, you could start with Danganronpa 1, but that's a bit, you know, that's a bit of older Nico. I feel like DRV3 is a better representation of who Nico is now. And also, Danganronpa V3 is just all around a more interesting game, in my opinion. But, you know, like, I don't feel like you're losing anything by watching Danganronpa V3 first versus Danganronpa 1 or 2. Because, I mean, is anyone going to deny that Danganronpa V3 is just the best Danganronpa game? I should really... Alright, for now I'll just convert the numbers directly. But I really should make a note here about stats because I feel like these should be 1000s and not 100s. So, print screen that. The lines that define the status effect build-up rate. Okay, that's your opinion, KJ Sparks. As for me, I think I will defend V3. I think V3 has the best overall cast too. Like, the cast of Danganronpa 2 is interesting, but I find V3's characters so much more engaging and deep overall across the board. That's just my personal opinion. And I think that's because V3 is a lot better at exploring each of its, what we'll say, members of the supporting cast more deeply than what we saw in Danganronpa 1 and 2. And more meaningfully, too. Especially with, we'll say, the Case 1 characters, because there's no denying that in pretty much any other Danganronpa game, the Case 1 characters are kind of throwaways. Oh, I mean, in Game 1, it's basically throwaways. Game 2, a little bit less, but Game 3, they are not throwaways at all. Like, they're super important, and I'm glad. I think that Trigger Happy Havoc is important in the sense that it started all, so it sets up everything. But if you just look back at just the way the game was designed, it just doesn't really hold up to the other two. Though ironically, I think Trigger Happy Havoc probably has the most, maybe grounded isn't the right word, but it has a decent enough finale that doesn't feel like it wore out its welcome. Whereas the V3 finale, of course, is extremely controversial, and the V2 the Danganronpa 2 finale is just kind of there. It's a cool message, but kind of the execution's kind of weird. That's just my opinion. Lines that define the status effects build up rates. And I agree. I do agree with your point about Ultra Despair Girls. So, like, are they friends, or are they, hey, more than friends? That is the question, isn't it? Ultra Despair Girls is basically a Resident Evil clone that's wanted to be more, but kinda was dimity. If that's the best way I can describe it. Just the way you move around in that game feels so close to Resident Evil 4. Like the way you have to stand still to fire your weapon, and how you can only jog, you can't actually sprint. Feels like it was very heavily inspired, at least by like Resident Evil 4. If you don't believe me, I'd highly recommend you looked up just a few minutes of. Anyway, what was I saying? All right. Page below. Divide the value currently by 100 instead of for the future rework. It feels a little more clunky, and some of the story elements a little much. Yeah, agreed. KJ Sparks, agreed. I feel like the thing about Ultra Despair Girls is I feel like it had potential to be a lot more deep than it ended up being. Especially with, we'll say, the antagonists. I mean, my goodness, most of the antagonists are so one-dimensional, it's not even funny. Like, the antagonists are one-dimensional, and some of the characters are completely unnecessary. I especially think of, like, that one bear they have that's just completely dark, as opposed to the light-colored bear made sense to some extent, but the dark-colored bear was just completely unnecessary as a character. And similarly, I really wish that the antagonists that you fought in that game made more sense, had better development, and weren't just there to be there, as it felt like for most of them. And I feel like you could have done a lot better, personally. I think the strong point is obviously the friendship slash, if you want to look at it that way, romance between the two lead characters. But yeah, that's where the names. I don't remember which one was which. It's just one of them was I, and the other one was why are you here? Pretty much. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff in Ultra Despair Girls that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Oh yeah, that's true. The Zero Save Let's Play, Zero Save and Virtuous Last Reward are classics too. Though admittedly it is older Nico, so do with that what you will, Copper. Yeah, I mean, personally, I feel like if you're gonna start with anything, probably the Great Ace Attorney 1 is the safest bet. Because it's an excellent story, and it's Nico kind of in his prime. And plus, you learn a little bit more about Japanese history during the early Industrial Revolution. That's always cool. Yeah. No, seriously, like, Copper Nicholson, if you're going to learn who Nico B is and, like, his style of Let's Play, watch The Great Ace Attorney 1, and if you're really enjoying it after that, The Great Ace Attorney 2. I think that'll give you a great representation of Nico as a Let's Player, while also, you know, getting to enjoy a really excellently written visual novel duology. Actually, that if you're not watching any of Nico's Twitch streams, definitely watch his archive for Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. It's amazing. The memes, anyway. Like, that is the one Twitch archive of Nico's I actually watched, and it was really, really good. Because he actually played through the entire game, so he doesn't normally do multi-part streams of games, but that was one he made an exception for. Okay, no worries, Tasty Spark. Yep. Oh yeah, he played through Metal Gear Rising: Revenge with Copper Nicholson, but I really feel like Nico is much better in his Let's Plays than he is on his streams. So that's why I was saying, any one of the Let's Plays I suggested, you should just watch those on YouTube on your own time. Side note, I do find it kind of amusing that Melody Rising Revengeance has only gotten more popular as time goes on. Like, I've seen like a resurgence of people like really talented artists making like remix covers of the songs for Melody Rising Revengeance, and more like people like prominent like streamers and such doing like playthroughs of Melody Rising Revengeance like now, like many years after it came out. And I find that both heartwarming and kind of hilarious because I mean the game is so memeable, but it's also very topical. I mean, you got like cyborg ninjas, you've got giant mechs. You literally have characters talking about memes in a more serious manner, and it's hilarious. Yeah. You definitely got into a good time, Copper Nicholson, because a lot of people, for whatever reason, are playing Elder Rising Revengeance, even though it's many years old at this point. That's a time more speaks to the time now, like the way things are nowadays. But well, that's the thing. It's not just Melody Rising Revengeance, Copper Nicholson. Most of the Melody games are extremely topical. In fact, I think there's a genuine argument to be made that Metal Gear Solid 2 is probably the most relevant for our day and age in terms of its themes and what it covers. No, those are not strong cases, Copper Nicholson. Those are thinly veiled excuses that you have to deconstruct, and that's part of what you do in the game. There's a reason why Sundowner is an antagonist. Now, as for like important lessons, though, I really feel like Metal Gear Solid 2 has probably some of the most valuable lessons to talk about in terms of the modern day and age, simply because it does dive into like how the internet affects things and how information control affects things, and it's just so deep. Why am I doing this? So oh yeah, how was that? Like, I'm honestly not too interested in JoJo, but you know, for those who are, like, was it a good, I guess, let's watch of JoJo? It is not confidential, Sid. Everyday retrieval index. I remember like the size editing helps. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, size editing probably would help it. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, size does a great job, by the way, with the editing. Like, it's a night and day difference. How much, you know, more vibrant Nico is now that he has help with editing and can focus more on just being himself. Yep, it's applicated sparse. We are our petty penguins for Nico and me, because that is the name of his fans. And aren't we called the Pitty Penguins because we're always so picky about what Nico plays? Like, oh, Nico, you should play this. Now play this. I'm like, come on. Like, okay. No, I will bet, even if I haven't watched it, the first episode title Nico had for his JoJo Let's Watch series was amazing, because it's literally just, it was me, memes, and that's the episode title. That's just so fitting. All right. Yo, Gregor, welcome back. How's it going? Yep, still going strong here. In fact, Gregor, we're about to test something. As you can see here, we have converted in all the damage calculations for the melee code to be completely dependent on the Cobra object and nothing else. So, because of that, we are now going to see whether we get independent damage calculations for the different Cobras. In other words, the moment of truth. I will say this, I am a bit scared because if this doesn't work, this is going to be a lot. We're going to have a lot of dating to figure this out. Let's first make sure. Okay, still moving. Still does our attacks. Let's move you out of the way. All right. So what I'm going to do, let's just double check where our damage is. Okay. So our damage is at default right now. A simple 20. So first test is going to be this one on the top left, since this one is the first one we made. It'll be our control group, shall we say. Does it deal 20 damage? Okay, well, that answers that question. Something is not right. I do not have... That is definitely not right. Ow. Okay, what about you? Wait, what? Okay. Interesting. So it works for one down. What? Huh. No, it works for the one on the right. Why not the one on the left, though? I'm intrigued. I am intrigued. Okay, so I'm also noticing that there's a weird thing going on with the crit sound, so that's something else I've looked into. And then I did 30 for some reason. What? Okay, well clearly some weird things are going on. And we know for this one, of course it doesn't take anything and sadness, so it's not quite working correctly.
Alright. I'll tell you the truth.
Okay. Well, because it seems like the critical hit stuff is behaving bizarrely, my first thing to test would be this. And search build-up is 0, so it should yield nothing.
Remember all the happy times we had?
Just want to eliminate that real quick to see if that changes anything. Probably not, but it's worth a shot.
Very much alike.
Okay, well that's still not behaving as intended.
Remember all the happy times we had?
Yeah, they seem to be controlled. But what's weird about this is it's dealing more damage the second time. That doesn't make any sense.
Very much alike.
Like, it should not be dealing more damage on the second hit. It should be dealing the same amount of damage on the second hit.
Alright.
There's something that's missing here. I almost wonder if the for each loop is working against this here because there's a collision check. I'm just concerned that we'll get a situation where we can't actually differentiate the two. For the sake of argument, let's delete that and see what happens. Not sure this will have any significant impact. It probably ties back to how the damage is calculated. Okay, well, it didn't spaz out. Well. Okay. Alright, now something... Oh, right, it hasn't respawned. Right. Man. This proves nothing. This proves nothing. One second. Okay. What enemies do when they're despawned is going to be, you know, a different thing to program. Okay, well, it doesn't seem to be damaging that. What? It's invincible! No! Ow! Well, that's a problem. Why? We're getting buds all around, chat. And now it's back. Oh, probably because I didn't include a code to make it reappear without dying. Okay. Alright, well, clearly that's something we'll have to look into. In the meantime, damage checks. Okay. Interesting. So when I got rid of the for each object, it actually did calculate that correctly. And yet, it doesn't seem to be damaging this one, though. So... there's another way we can test this, chat. So, what I'm going to do, we'll duplicate this, move you over here, like that. Alright, I want to see if this is just like a first, if this is affecting like, if it's like the most recently created Cobra is the one that works perfectly and all the others are messed up, or if it's just the one. Alright. Don't mind that. This is actually kind of perfect, so... well, that was ranged attack, so that doesn't really help. Okay, so that is hitting. Alright, we're getting the weird damage thingy. What about this one? No, come back! Come back! Okay. Okay, that actually tells me something, chat. That tells me something. So... the actual indexing does seem to be working. It is actually differentiating the fact that these two things have different amounts of health. But we get weird stuff here, and I think that's because we're trying to reference a null value. So, how do we resolve that? I think we'll just have to be with an indexing of something, of some sort. So, for this for one particular test, I want to see, just for my own sanity, since I did kind of hit them in order. If I hit the second in Cobra, then the third Cobra, do they both each take 20 damage? Okay, that's 20 damage on that one. Let's take a look at this one. Okay, 20 damage on that one. That's important. Okay, 30 damage on that one. Okay, what that tells me is we're not properly resetting the damage calc. Well, no, so here's what I think is happening. Whenever the old damage calculation used to work, it used an index of, I think, 0. Or 1 or something like that. So basically 1 less than what we're currently indexing to with our new thing. Because of that, these values get written into the array, but they're actually shifted 1 over from where they should be. And when they're called back, which means that when they're called back, in this one up here, because this has the lowest value, it's actually returning a null value that it can't read, and that's why we get the error and no damage dealt. So let's just destroy us, and then we'll try some debugging ideas. So... Hmm. I think the easiest way to check this is just to see what we're indexing to. Run value 1 to 23 frame. Damage taken. Damage calcs. Melee damage taken. Okay, so that's not particularly relevant there. Now you got 20, 21. I think it all has something to do with this line right here. I think this is the line that's controlling. Well, obviously, this line up here is controlling when the bash is playing. Is that value? Okay, I think the problem is here. So 20 tom. This monstrosity is determining is what sets off the whole damage calculation equation in the first place. You have some value here, 20 1/frame/1-frame that determines where it should be going. We're saying is 4. Or 1 frame. What's that? Let's try editing this and see if that. I'll probably break things, but we'll attempt it. Okay, well, you sent out an application. Alright, it's really sent an application, but I'd strongly encourage you to send out even more, Dr. Nicholson. Alright, let's try. And that is not working. Whoops. Okay. So we can't do that because that just causes an infinite loop. Okay, so I think this will speak to the situation we had before. Yeah, in that case, it's just needs to be hit every frame. Oh yeah, on that one we expect that. That one we actually get independent value there. Yeah, I really think so. I really do think the problem is going to lie in there's some disconnect here between the value that's being written here and the value that's being referenced in the generic damage calculation equations. And there are two ways we can go about fixing this. The first way, chat, would be to try and dig through the old damage calculations and see where the disconnecting value is and trying to resolve that. The potential drawback to that is we might end up in a situation where that actually negatively impacts the cabrattles and rattlesnakes, because those are actually working fine right now. So damage this rattlesnake, takes normal amounts of damage, I would expect. damage to Rattle. Works as intended. And I can do this for multiple. So if I go to the rattlesnakes up here, they'll behave as I would expect. That hurt. But the point is, it's working fine for our stationary targets. It's just with this rework that weird things, you know, happen. So actually, there's 20. There's a 20. You know, working as intended. So, I think that's on your end, Copper Nicholson. I don't think it sounds painful. Or what do you mean by painful? Painful as in like, oh, it sounded like it hurt, or painful as in it's painful to listen to in general? So, anyway, as I was saying, the solution is either that's trying to debug that array section, or simply recreating the damage calculations. It definitely sounds like a loud buzz. So, what sounds like a loud buzz? You mean the glitch hitting the thing over and over again? We just hear that. Yeah, that's obviously that's not intended. That's a bug. Yeah, well, that's a bug, so it's not supposed to sound like that. We're trying to figure out where that is. So basically, what I'm thinking is we'll leave this for NetStrem. But I see 2 ways to go about this. One is to try and do some debugging, digging through the array and seeing where the difference lies and if we can overcome that. Yeah, like I was saying, what we were hearing when we hit that one Cobra, that's not... Let me go this way. So, you know, rattlesnake, intentional. That's normal. That's how it's supposed to sound. I hit this for one particular Cobra. That is wrong. That is not intentional at all. That is a bunch of sound effects being played over all at once. Because something is going very wrong. But as I was saying, the 2 solutions are 1, debug, or 2, make new damage calculations unique to the Cobra. To again, keep that stuff away from the previous array, so that way that the Cobra and rattlesnakes can still take damage properly. Sorry, the rattle and rattlesnakes still take damage properly, while Cobras can also take damage properly without having that issue. So that'll be the goal for NetStream, is do either resolve Cobra melee damage taken, but either option 1, debug the array damage calculations so that each Cobra takes damage as intended. Currently, perm bugs include repeated hit of the first created Cobra and taking 0 damage. Cobras taking more damage on the second hit than the first hit. Current theory indexing of the Cobra is disconnected from indexing of the array, leading the first Cobra to get information from a null value. In the array. Current theory. Specific melee hit from the first melee hit. The damage stored in the damage calculation array from the previous melee attack is not being erased prior to the current melee attack. This could mean that the value the Cobras are referencing in the array is one value to less than the index of the array for the rattles. Okay. Cobra code. Rattle code and write out the full logic for how information is stored and calculated in the damage calculation array. Then do the same process for the Cobra and note any differences. These differences are likely the source of the bug. Option 2 creates new lines of code in the Cobra damage taken section. That uses the for each object to calculate by a code. This would replace Okay. With that, I think we have some potential paths forward here, chat. So, unfortunately, we weren't able to fully rework the damage calculations to work exactly as intended. The fact that I do like that we're able to, at the very least, get individual damage dealt to some of the Cobras. So at least they are being indexed individually and treated individually. It's just something's wonky with how the damage is being calculated and returned. And that's what needs to be invested in and or reworked. So there is going to be more to do on this front, but at the very least, it still feels like we're making some progress. So I'm happy about that. So I will wrap things up here though. If you're watching on Twitch, feel free to stick around for a raid. But if you're watching this on YouTube and you like what you saw, please consider subscribing on YouTube. It's free to subscribe on YouTube. You can always change your mind later, and it's a great way to show support. If you're watching on YouTube, I hope you have an awesome night.